Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of my podcast video. Today, we're going to talk about the Hugo Award winners of 2018. Now, I was not at Worldcon, but I know a few other YouTubers who were there. I hope you checked out their pictures and their live streams, which you can find on their sites. I'm going to talk about all the winners in terms of the ones I've read or works that I've come to know. So, here are some of the Hugo Award winners and nominees that I read throughout the year. The Hugo Award for Best Novel went to N.K. Jemisin's The Stone Sky, which is the third book in the Broken Earth trilogy. Those of you who remembered, I did a book review about why you should read the fifth season, the first book in the Broken Earth trilogy. This series is one of the best ones I've ever read in a while. And N.K. Jemisin is the first author to not only win the Hugo Award for the same series, but she's done it in consecutive years. Go and read this trilogy. You have no excuses. All three books are available, and they're critically acclaimed. What more do you want? The Hugo Award for Best Novella went to Martha Wells' All Systems Red, which is the first book in the Murderbot series. Now, before I get into that winning book, I want to mention the rest of the nominees because I've actually read most of the other books in this category. So first, The Black Tides of Heaven by J.Y. Yang. That is a silk punk novella series. It's the first in 3. The next 2 are available to read right now. And it's about twins who learn they try to make their way in the world through political intrigue. Their mother is a very powerful woman, and they're trying to figure things out on their own without her. That's the easiest way to put it. And it is also gender fluid, meaning gender is part of the story, but it's not made a big deal throughout the series. It's a very interesting read. I suggest you read that. Next, there was Binti Home by Nendi Okorafor. I hope I said that name right. Now, that was the second in her trilogy of Binti. Binti won 2 years ago for Best Novella. So, and I've read the rest of the Binti trilogy. It's very well done. It's a great read. I suggest you read that as well. And then the last book that I read in this category, because I haven't read the other 2, was Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shanann McGuire. Now, Every Heart a Doorway was the first book in that series, and that won just about everything it was nominated for last year. It's a portal series. It's a dark tone of what happens to kids and some young adults who find a doorway to another world and what happens if they come back. It's an interesting spin on it. Down Among the Sticks and Bones is the second book, so you do have to read the first book in the series. So please enjoy that. All Systems Red, when I read that, I literally said, this one's going to win it. I know you're not supposed to say such things, and you're not supposed to jinx the author either, but out of all the novellas I read in this category, this one, hands down, was going to win. And that's saying a lot because the 2 of the other novellas in this category won the award in previous years. But you will not be disappointed by Martha Wells' series or the other nominees in this category. Please go and read these. They are worth it. As I mentioned before, I have not read all the nominees in all the categories, so I'm going to automatically skip to Best Graphic Story. And the winner for that category was Monstrous, Volume 2, which was written by Marjorie Liu and illustrated by Sana Takeda. And before I get into the description of the series, I also want to mention that Sana Takeda also won for Best Professional Artist in her category. So she walked away with 2 Hugo Awards. Congratulations to her. Monstrous is, I don't want to say new, it's about 2 or 3 years old. It's a series about a young woman who is trying to connect with her past. Her mother is dead, and she has some holes in her memory, and all she knows is that she has an arm that seems to control her, and she's trying to learn to control it. The artwork is beautiful. The story is amazing. It obviously takes place in another world, and she journeys and meets other characters, and we meet other characters from her past who help explain things as they go along. And just so you know, the first volume won last year, but please keep in mind that does not mean the other nominees were not worth it. I just started reading Paper Girls by Brian Vaughan. It's amazing. It's similar to Stranger Things, so if you're a fan of Stranger Things, I suggest you read Paper Girls. And another nominee is Saga, which is also by Brian Vaughan, different illustrator. Cliff Chiang does Paper Girls. Fiona Staples does Saga. Saga is an amazing work. I'm going to talk about that more in a future podcast episode. This way I can have more time to explain it to you. So please check out those nominees from the Best Graphic Story. The award for Best Young Adult Book went to Akata Warrior by Nadia Okorafor. Now, as I mentioned, she won the Hugo for Best Novella for Binti. So she's won for other awards for her works as well. I recommend reading Who Fears Death. That's an amazing novel. Akata Warrior is the sequel to Akata Witch, which I will be reading within the next few weeks. It's described as Harry Potter in Africa. I know how that sounds, but that's the description I was told. And everyone I know who has read it enjoys it. A lot of kids seem to enjoy it. I'm sending it as the first book as a gift to a relative of mine. She loves reading books, so I hope she enjoys it as much as I do. Maybe we'll read it together and we'll talk about it. We will see. Now, another book that was nominated in this category was The Book of Dust, La Belle Soivante by Philip Pullman. Those of you who are not familiar with his works, Philip Pullman's trilogy, his Dark Materials, the first book, either The Golden Compass or The Northern Lights, depending on which edition you receive in your country, is the first book in that trilogy. He has written other works as well, but this is his main trilogy. The Book of Dust is the first in the it's a prequel novel to his Dark Materials, but it's the first in the trilogy of companion stories. So we're going back to Lyra Belacqua's life. So this is when she's a baby, so we're not getting her point of view in this, but we learn the events that led up to the first book in his Dark Materials. So Philip Pullman, this is him returning to his parallel universe of Oxford, and it's a very good read. I'm very excited for the second book whenever that comes out. So I do suggest you read that, even if you haven't read his Dark Materials. this is the prequel book to that, so it is safe to read this before that one. I will talk more about Philip Pullman in a future episode. Next, I want to talk about the category of Best Related Work. Now, the winner for this category was No Time to Spare Thinking About What Matters by the late Ursula K. Le Guin. I believe it was one of her last works that was published. I have not read that, and nor have I read Crash Override, How Gamergate Nearly Destroyed My Life and How We Can Win the Fight Against Online Hate by Zoe Quinn. I did follow the Gamergate situation. In fact, I wrote an academic article about it when I was in grad school. I should read that soon. It looks very interesting because the big trolls surrounding that are still harassing Zoe Quinn and the other big names from Gamergate. It's actually kind of sad. And then there's Luminescent Threads, Connections to Octavia Butler, which is edited by Alexander Pierce and Mimi Mondal. And then there's a work by Ian M. Banks by Paul Kincaid. I have not read any of those. They look very interesting. Now, the fifth category nominee for that was Sleeping with Monsters, Readings and Reactions in Science Fiction and Fantasy by Liz Burke. I've read her stuff on Tor.com. She talks about female characters in science fiction and fantasy stories and how the tropes need to be changed or evolved for the genres to continue moving forward. So she put some of her essays and new works in this book. I'm going to try and read it in the future because it's interesting to see a critical and fan viewpoint of this genre from someone else who feels the same way myself and the rest of us do. And also she does interview and mention a whole slew of female authors from Tamora Pierce to Nadia Okorafor. So I want to mention that because we should look more into the critical pieces surrounding science fiction and fantasy, especially if we're going to continue to read them and look at from the past and why the modern works are just as important as the ones from the past. So now I'm going to talk about the two dramatic presentations. So the first one, the long form of it, Wonder Woman won that category. It beat out Blade Runner 2049 and The Shape of Water. So go figure. Wonder Woman is a great movie, don't get me wrong. But I'm going to have to go back and watch both Blade Runner 2049 and The Shape of Water to figure out how Wonder Woman beat those two movies out. So I'm not complaining. I'm actually intrigued by this win. And the Best Dramatic Presentation short form went to an episode of The Good Place, The Trolley Problem. I have not started The Good Place yet. I keep hearing good things. So hopefully I can start watching that after I go through the rest of my backlog of television. That's what Hulu and Netflix are for, so I will catch up. If you know of anyone else that likes The Good Place, please tell me why I should watch that first, and I will do so. Now, the award for Best Series went to Lois McMaster Bujold, I hope I'm saying that right, for The World of the Five Gods. And the first book in that series is called The Curse of Callion. I have never heard of this series before, so I raided the library, and this was one of the books I got from my local library. I'm curious to see what the series is about, and it was praised by the late Robert Jordan, so now I'm really intrigued to read this book. Another one was Encrypted by Sharon McGuire. I have not read that series yet. I'm working through the October Day series. And so if anyone has read either of those two series, please let me know. I'm already reading the Wayward Children novellas, so I have an idea what her writing is like, so I can't comment on that one either. And then another nominee was The Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. I have started The Way of Kings. I am not done with The Way of Kings, and which means I'm not done even close to reading the second or third book in that series yet. So I cannot comment on that except for it is epic and it does remind me of Robert Jordan's Wheel in Time series. But the winner went to Lois McMaster Bujold, and I am looking forward to reading this book. I'm curious because I've never heard of this author, so I'm very intrigued by this win. Before I get to the last category I'm going to discuss on this episode, I want to say congratulations to all the winners and the nominees. I'm sure the ones who lost and enjoyed the losers party that they throw every year. Apparently George R. R. Martin hosts that, so he's there every year celebrating. Now, I did not read the short stories or the novelettes, and I'm not, or the fanzines or any of the other categories. So I just want to say congratulations. If anyone knows anything about those nominees, please let me know. Comment in the comments section. Would like to know more about it, but I want to say congratulations to them. Now, the last category I'm going to mention is the John W. Campbell Award for Best New Writer. It is given to the, as it sounds, best new writer in the science fiction fantasy genre every year. Now, I thought Catherine Arden was going to win this one. Her novel The Bear and the Nightingale came out last year, and it's magic realism at its best. And I've also read The Girl in the Tower. And the third book comes out in January, so I'm looking forward to that. However, she does have a book called Small Spaces. It's for young adults. It's supposed to be kind of like a scary story. And it's coming out in September, just in time for Halloween. The Winter of the Witch comes out in January, so I hope you look forward to that book coming out as much as I do. In fact, it's because I was reading The Bear and the Nightingale that I was recommended Uprooted and Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. So there you go. Sometimes you just fall into the next book after reading one. Now, the winner of this category went to Rebecca Roanhorse. Now, her first book is called The Trail of Lightning. It's a new series from the Sixth World series, and it's a sci-fi paranormal book. It looks as it's about monsters after the waters flood the planet, and the protagonist, who is a Native American, meets up with gods and heroes of legends to battle these monsters that now walk the earth. Sounds a bit like Percy Jackson and American Gods, so now I'm really intrigued to read this. I will let you know how this book is, so hope to enjoy it. So that wraps up the Hugo Award winners of 2018 and the nominees. That is my opinion. All the nominees earned it, and the ones I read were amazing. Even though they didn't win, you should still read the works that were nominated. You will not be disappointed. And because some of the nominees were sequels to works that won beforehand, you should definitely read those series. You will not be disappointed. We should look more into the award-winning works, as well as the ones that don't get nominated. So we should keep that in mind. So that is the end of the video. I hope if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And you may follow me on one of my social media accounts. And until next time, this is Misty. Have a good day.